today is just a day, you know. Is anyone else having a day? And it's one of those days that you can't even get mad at anyone or anything because it's your own fault. Well, every day is a day, and hopefully the next day will be better. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, and today is another episode of Girl, You Do Not Need That Palette, otherwise known as Duping new palette releases. And I got my inspiration to do like this kind of exercise from Hannah Louise Poston and Lauren May Beauty. I know that Mia's Virtual Vanity also does similar videos, as does Christina Brooke, so I will go ahead and link all their channels down below as well if you enjoy this kind of content. Today's palette in the spotlight is Huda Beauty's new Haze 9-pan palette collection. At first, when I saw the photo of these 3 palettes on Trendmood's Instagram page, I thought that it was a picture of the Huda Beauty Nude Obsessions palettes, which come in light, medium, and deep. And I was kind of confused because I was like, why are they posting this now? But it's actually a new line. The 3 variations include Sand Haze, Purple Haze, and Khaki Haze. And immediately among looking at them, I was very drawn to Khaki, which we're talking about today, and the Sand Haze. However, looking more closely at the Sand Haze, it does resemble, just like generally resemble, the Nude Light Obsessions palette, which is what I have here. The Nude Light Obsessions palette is softer, a little bit lighter, not as deep or rich, but the general like color idea, the concept, it looks very similar. So I actually wanted to talk about Khaki more because that's the one that I would be more likely to purchase with my own money. If you've not yet seen my top 5 fall eyeshadow palettes video that I just did, I literally will not shut up about how much I have been obsessed with like olives and grungier tones, a little dirtier tones, and that is just the color story of the Khaki palette. Anyways, onto the topic, the actual topic of this video. What I do in these videos is go through every shade within the palette in question, and I go through my own collection of around 20 to 25 eyeshadow palettes and find those shades within my own collection. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it lets me know that you like these kinds of videos and I will continue to make more, and also because these videos have the highest percentage of dislike to like ratio, so it would really help me out. If this is your first time meeting me, I hope that I will charm you enough and convince you to stay for my future videos too. I will show you just all of the swatches on my arm in like one pan shot first, then I'll compare them to the official Huda Beauty arm swatches of the Khaki palette. Then after that, I will go through every single shade and tell you where I found it from, and I will swatch it on my arm live because there is value in both the final swatch and the live swatches. And then finally, after that, I will show you how I created this eye look. It's kind of giving me Natasha Denona mini retro palette vibes with the combination of pink and olive. And then that will be everything on our agenda today. There will be timestamps for each of those topics that I just mentioned, so you can go to whichever one you're most interested in. But let's begin with the all together arm swatches. Here are all 9 shades swatched of my personal homemade Huda Beauty Khaki Haze Obsessions palette. It's beautiful, kind of earthy, a little grungy, even a little bit floral with the pink and green. And here are those swatches compared to the brand's official swatches of this palette. And you can kind of compare and measure for yourself how well you think I did. I always think I do a good job because I spend hours, I am telling you, for just 9 shades. I will spend at least an hour and a half to 2 hours getting it as close as I can. If you think I did well, tell me in the comments because it makes me happy. Now, as far as I saw in the Huda Beauty palette, there weren't individual names for all the shades, so I'm just gonna call them shades 1 through 9, going across each row. I have 4 of her little mini 9-pan palettes, and none of these have individual shade names either. The main photos I used for a reference in picking my tones were firstly the swatch photo of the shades on the arms of 3 different skin tones. Secondly, there is this photo that Trendmood snapped, and this is a photo of like the actual product that is not from the brand, and I trust those photos a lot more in terms of like trueness to color because there's not all that post-production business that goes on the brand's end. And lastly, there is this photo from Huda Beauty themselves. But the photo that Trendmood took of the actual palette and then the brand's picture advertising of the colors in that palette look very different. So I kind of leaned more onto the physical photo of the palette instead of the marketing photo from the brand. Let's begin with shade number 1 in the top left corner. So this looked to be like a very light but also extremely yellow gold leaning highlight color. And for that I picked a Colourpop shade. It's actually not from the So Jaded palette, it's just living in the So Jaded palette. I rearranged this and it is this shade here, which is actually originally from the I Think I Love You palette, which is also from Colourpop, but I popped out that pan and popped it into the So Jaded palette to hang out with these other colors since this originally had glitters and I threw those out. I swatched a lot of highlight shades to find the closest one to this one. I swatched the lightest one in the Pat McGrath Mothership Sublime Bronze Ambition palette. There's Glistening from the Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette, as well as Soleil from the Anastasia Beverly Hills Jackie Aina palette. There are the 2 champagnes in the Natasha Denona Mini Nude and the Mini Glam palettes, but none of those had the right undertone. This is the only shade that had enough yellow gold in it for me to feel comfortable like calling it a dupe. Shade number 2 looks to be like a beautiful soft pastel, slightly peachy pink, and I pulled that from my Huda Nude Obsessions light palette. And just looking at the pictures maybe and the description of it, you would think that this would be the pick, but it actually wasn't. When I swatched it, I picked this one, which looks like a almost like plain peachy neutral transition tone, but it swatches way pinker than I would expect. It's a beautiful color, probably my favorite matte in my recreated palette, and just this Huda Nude Light Obsessions palette I love. It's just a fantastical, mythical palette that I am obsessed with. Shade number 3 gave me a hard time. In the swatch, it looks to be kind of like a clear nude base with a strong, cool pink like reflect to it, like a duochrome. And initially I had picked Sydney Grace XOXO, which is essentially that, what I described. But what I ended up picking is not an eyeshadow per se, it's a little mini of the Laura Geller highlighter in the shade Diamond Dust. And it looks plain white in the pan, but in the swatch, it takes on just a very like strong, cool pink color, and it doesn't look anything like what you would expect. I believe the original shade that's going to be in the Khaki Haze Obsessions palette is like a topper color, which it was described that these palettes would have some kind of toppers. So this powder cosmetic item, highlighter, eyeshadow, whatever I want to use it for, it really suits that purpose, I think. Shade number 4 is a deep, rich brown, and for that I reached into my Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette, Ultimate Neutral palette, and my specific pick is this deep brown Cypress Umber. This is a really good pick for this brown because it looks true neutral. It doesn't have any like pink in it or warmth in it or a lot of gray in it either. It is just a great brown deep tone. Shades number 5 and 6 I pulled from my Alter Ego Artemis palette. Firstly, I'll talk about shade number 5, which is a like very olive brown tone, but it's not just olive. Like it has very strong brown in it, which is why just any old olive matte wouldn't work. So let me first tell you what my actual pick was. It is this kind of very brown, the most brown green olive tone in the Artemis palette. I rearranged it, but the original name of this shade was Prowl, so it was in this position. The longer you work with mattes in this particular Alter Ego palette, the better it looks because it's very creamy, putty formula, so the longer you work it in, just a better, like smoother blend you're gonna get. Shade number 6 is the one that looked the most different among all of my photo references because in the brand's photo, it looked like a green gold bronze, but then in the swatch it looked like olive, like a little deeper of an olive with maybe a little bit of gold in there. But then in the photo that Trendmood took of the palette, it looked just like a straight olive shimmer. So I mostly compared like made my final decision comparing to the swatch, because I would be comparing my swatches to the official one side by side to look better. So within the Artemis palette, there are two like kind of olive-y shimmers, and I picked the greener one of the two, and this original shade was called Quest, so it was originally over here. I just scooted it over one when I rearranged this. As you can see, this is like the same level of depth as the previous shade. In Huda Beauty's photo, it looks like it should have been way lighter, but then in the swatches, it looks like this. And then in Trendmood's picture, this shimmer and the matte before it look like they're like similar. So this is what I ended up with, and I like this pick. Shade number 7 is a mid-toned matte brown, and for that, back into my go-to neutral palette, and I picked this shade, Rustic. If you don't have this palette, go through your own collection, although I know a lot of us already do have this palette, and I'm sure you can find a mid-tone matte neutral brown. Those of us who would consider buying this Khaki Haze palette are not buying it for like tones like this or this, but that's actually like a significant percentage of the tones that we're paying for. So going through every shade like this is like great for me, because I truly see like what that new palette is made of. Shade number 8, ooh, this one is maybe my favorite, and it is just a beautiful rose gold, metallic foiled rose gold. And for that, I pulled one of my favorite shades, favorite Colourpop shades, and favorite shades in general in my collection. It is from the Dream Street palette, and it is this top left shade called Twinkle. I will say that not every Colourpop metallic is made equal, but this one is just like the smoothest, butteriest formula. Oh, I love it. You see in the swatch just how well this shadow works. Shade number 9, the final shade, is like a very warm transition shade. I would say it's a little bit deeper than just a normal like light skin tone transition shade, and for that I picked from my Jackie Aina palette this warm deeper transition called Ginger. I was debating between Jackie Aina's Ginger and the Soft Glam palette's Burnt Orange here, but swatching these side by side, Ginger just maintained a lot more of its warmth and richness, whereas if I built up Burnt Orange, it had a lot more like neutrality to it. It looked less warm the more I built it. And Ginger just stayed true to tone, and is also more comparable to the Khaki Haze shade number 9. Those are all 9 shades. Before I let you go today, I want to show you how I made this eye look. So first thing I did was dip into my Huda Nude Obsessions light palette and take this peachy pink tone and set it as my base. I really wanted to incorporate more of like the olivey khaki tones into this look, because that is what draws me to this palette. So I used this matte, creamy matte from the Artemis palette on the outer corner of my eye. As my lid shade, I took this rose gold from the Dream Street palette and swiped it all over the lid with my finger. Each of these colors, by the way, I also dragged along my lower lash line in relatively corresponding places. After swiping on that lid shade, I lost a little bit of that green, so I went back into this matte green, built it up a bit more, and then blended that out with the pink transition shade that I used earlier. And for my inner corner, as just a little bit of a pop, a little bit of a highlight, I picked the Laura Geller highlighter in the shade Diamond Dust. Then I just popped on some mascara, and this is my final look. If you hear like a little shh, it's some Texas rain in the background. How do y'all think I did? Do you feel inspired to do the same thing in your own collection? Because I 100% recommend doing that to anybody and everybody. Benefits of it are potentially saving you money by talking yourself out of this new purchase. Secondly, it is reminding yourself of some of your favorite tones that you may have forgotten about, because probably a big reason you're drawn to this new palette is because you like the colors, and if you like those colors, you've probably liked those colors in the past, therefore you've bought palettes with those colors in the past, if that makes sense. At the end of this, those palettes still look so beautiful. As much as I say that I want them and I'm drawn to them, which are both true, I'm probably not going to spend my money on them, because one thing I ask myself, well, I ask myself a few things when I'm considering buying something new. Firstly, do I already own it, which is the purpose of this entire exercise? And also, secondly, will I regret buying it? And by that, I mean, if in 6 months someone came to me with $29, which is the price of this palette, and said, you can either keep that palette or you can have this $29 back. Will I keep that palette? Those are the couple questions I ask myself. You can practice asking yourself them too, and I hope they help you. I wanted to share a couple fun things. My ring is the fairy tale like emblem of the Guild fairy tale from the anime/manga. This was my favorite manga for many, many years, and I found this ring again and wanted to wear it. Also, my contacts are very subtle. Like, it barely looks like I'm wearing contacts, but these are colored contacts. They have some pink like speckles throughout them. This contacts company is like new to me, but I've been testing their stuff over the last month or two, and I really like it. They're by far the most comfortable contacts I have ever worn, and these are from Poly Eye. They're the Galaxy Purple Pink contacts. I'm just mentioning all this stuff in case there are any of y'all who are curious to what I'm wearing and what makes me look like the way I look like. These are the Ana Luisa Sia earrings and the Ana Luisa simple ear cuff. If I have codes for any of this stuff, I will leave it in the description box. I'm never here to tell you to buy anything, okay? Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was fun. I hope it was everything you wanted. And I want y'all to remember that y'all are my treasure. Find the beauty in every day, but most importantly, be kind to yourself. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.